You know, if you're like me, you like to watch these TV shows or whatever where they're in trial and you see the public defender and you're wondering how in the world can this person defend this criminal knowing the heinous crime that he's committed. Well, we're going to give you an idea today because with me in studio, the author of a new book called Confessions of a Public Defender is attorney David Futch. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Tell us a little bit, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm from Pascagoula.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there since 1962, literally.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated Pascagoula High School in '79, and I went to welding school because I needed to get a job. Graduated welding school, and I was working hard one day in the sweat, and I saw some guys with ties and stuff, and come find out they were engineers. So next thing I did was got in the engineering drafting apprenticeship program at Ingalls, graduated in '84. And then one day, for whatever reason, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I started going to school at night. I got my bachelor's degree, then I got accepted to Ole Miss Law School and left my family and quit my job, came back and wanted to be a personal injury lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And but as most things happen, you go where you're needed, not necessarily where you want to go, but where you have opportunity.
Right.
And there was a big opportunity for appointed cases in the criminal field because a lot of people will get out of law school and don't want to do criminal work.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I took criminal law in law school, and I took the class and I thought to myself, Lord, I ain't never doing that. Literally.
Literally.
And I even told my professor, I'm like, you know, who does this? Well, when I got out, I had the opportunity to get into this field. So the first thing that I got was I got hired as an assistant prosecutor, assistant DA.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for about a little less than a year, and then I went out on my own. And I've been on my own for 22 years, mainly doing appointed criminal work for Jackson, Georgia, and Greene County,
okay,
where I'm currently the public defender for Georgia County, which is a part-time job, but a full-time experience.
Well, you know, in reading the book, I found the introduction to the book alone was very intriguing. I mean, it really was. Is it true that most people who end up in jail cannot afford an attorney, so that's where a public defender comes in?
It is shocking how many people, and I mean, and not just poor people, I'm talking about hard-working folks. You go to try to hire an attorney, and it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, they just can't do it. There's no way to do it. And we're not gonna allow anyone to go forth in court without representation. That's a Sixth Amendment right to counsel.
How do you determine which case you take?
Well, you don't.
You don't.
You are
given a case.
Oh, if I determined which case that I would take, then I would only take the easy cases, right?
Mm-hmm. And from reading your book, there's a lot of cases in here that were not easy at all. And again, and just surprisingly, you know, how can you defend some of these things? And how closely do you work with the prosecutor on any case?
Let me tell you a story. I mean, church has been on and off for me since COVID, but I've had people at church ask me, you know, how in the world can you represent that man? And I tell them that you have constitutional rights as American, and you're innocent until proven guilty, which we like to make sure people are guilty before they even go to court. That being said, everybody deserves to have their day in court, no matter how heinous the crime is. And that's the problem. A lot of lawyers simply can't do these sex cases. And
I was going to say, especially when it comes down to like child molesters, sex offenders, things like that.
Sex offenders, grandfathers molesting their grandchildren.
Yeah, that's a chapter in the book. Don't go hunting with grandpa. So again, there's a lot of them in here that, I mean, your book alone has 25 different cases that you have worked.
Oh.
And I mean, and I can only imagine.
I could make that book the size of an encyclopedia if I would just sit down and recollect, you know, certain stories. But it started out as a memorialization to my grandchildren about what I have had to go through as a lawyer trying to help people, okay? At the end of the day, you got to remember that you're there to try to help these folks no matter how bad they are. I get a lot of satisfaction because I've seen drugs ruin so many families. I get a lot of satisfaction seeing somebody that's strung out on drugs and go through drug court, graduate, and become productive citizens. It's unreal. It does work.
I can understand that.
So you got that going. But then you have the other cases where a grandfather molests his grandchildren allegedly, and then he confesses, and you know, you have to work through that and make sure his constitutional rights are protected, even though he pleads guilty. And that's what we do. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, like you said, do I pick a case? No. They say, hey, this is your case. Do this case. I'll look at it, review it. First thing I do is review the constitutionality of whatever's happening, illegal searches, illegal statements. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if I determine that there's enough evidence that a jury could probably make you guilty, I'm truthful. I'll tell you. If we go to court on these facts, you're probably going to be guilty. A lot of people don't want to hear that. They also say, when's somebody going to listen to what I have to say? Well, if we listen to what they had to say, we wouldn't even be here. Mm-hmm. The only time that's going to happen is when you're sitting on a witness stand under oath answering questions.
Right. Well, just some of the chapters, I want to mention just some of the chapters. Mama Killer, we mentioned Don't Go Hunting with Grandpa. Murder in Prison, Talking in Tongues Before Death. Have you ever had we got probably close to a minute left, have you ever had a case that has really affected you emotionally?
When I first started,
excuse me,
I was an intern for the judge. There was a child molestation case. Anyway, we went in the back on a recess and I was crying because I had 2 little girls. And the judge said, you better straighten up. We're not here to cry or get emotional. We're here to do our job. And that was 25 years ago, so no, I don't get emotional. I have a job to do just like anybody else. A plumber, I'm the plumber of justice.
Right.
Isn't that terrible? But it's true.
Yeah. So I want to mention again, the name of the book is called Confessions of a Public Defender. I guess they can go online to order it.
It's on Amazon.com, free with Kindle Prime. And
it's an amazing book. I mean, like I said,
it's a short read, it's a quick
read. It is,
read.
but it like a family affair, fired on the spot. So much of them. Sir, thank you so much.
Thank
David
you.
Fuchs, Confessions of a Public Defender. Go online, check it out.